Hi, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, here at DevOps Enterprise Summit. And I'm here with a bolder friend, Jason Hand from VictorOps. Jason, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So we're into our third day of DevDoes 2015. How's the show been for you? How's the conference been?
It's been awesome. I was here last year just sort of as a participant or just as somebody mulling around and listening to the talks and interacting with people. And it was honestly one of my favorite conferences of the year, and I get to a lot of them. So I immediately came back to the VictorOps office and I said, one, we need to be there just as a vendor, but also we need to bring a bunch of people because there's some really, really great speakers talking about some awesome stuff that the larger companies are starting to do. And I think that's always been sort of, for a lot of companies, they're like, well, this DevOps thing sounds interesting, but I don't think it'll apply to us because we're a little bit too big.
Right.
Things work different here. And but when you start hearing some of these other companies, Target, Capital One, HP, say, actually it's not really unique to the smaller companies or startups. This is something we figured out too. All of a sudden, everybody's like, okay, now you have my attention. And anyway, it was a great conference last year, and it's been really great.
Better this year.
It's been really good.
You know what? If you can share with some of our listeners, viewers, what were some of the your key sessions that you really touched base with you?
Mm-hmm. Well, all of the morning talks have been great every single day. I particularly loved the HP talk. I do a lot of speaking engagements about the topic of chat ops and collaboration and how that plays well with incident management. Obviously, that has a lot to do with what VictorOps is all about. And that was one of my favorites. This morning's talk with Josh Corman and John Willis. That one was always great. John and Josh.
Yeah, we just had them in here.
Yeah, I mean, they're fantastic, and I love hanging out with them. One of the other ones I really loved from yesterday was the Blameless Postmortem talk from J. Paul Reed and Kevna from Salesforce. And
they were actually interviewed too, but I know J. Paul.
Yeah.
I've seen him do that same thing before too.
Yeah, well, the whole postmortems, especially the just culture and the blameless stuff, like that's my jam, right? I love talking about that kind of stuff, and I love talking about the actual science behind this stuff. It's not some like hippie idea when it comes to blameless. Like there's actually it actually like works, and when you can start to illustrate how that works and why it works, and the right process for actually stepping through some sort of post-incident and actually learning from it rather than trying to identify a root cause. Like I think more and more teams are realizing this whole language of root cause doesn't really apply anymore because of the complexity of our infrastructure and our code base.
Sure.
And they did a really, really great job of actually explaining some of the reasons why this stuff works. And it's not just philosophical or whatever. There's actually some real numbers behind all this stuff.
Got it. Jason, I wanted to zero in on the HP talk you were referring to early on, and as I said, the folks from that session came in and we interviewed them yesterday. One of the interesting things I thought that I learned in talking to them was, again, driving home that lesson that DevOps is more about people and culture than tools.
Yeah.
Even in their chat ops, and they've done a tremendous job with their chat ops, as you probably saw in that thing. But it's relatively technology agnostic. What tool they're using for the chat?
Yeah.
They're using this one, but they could use another one. They could drop some. It was almost like the tool layer was abstracted from the people layer and the functionality layer, if you will, of what we were accomplishing.
Yeah.
And then tools became just tools.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, ChatOps is just sort of a subset topic within the greater universe of DevOps, right? And it's the same thing we hear with DevOps. It's not about tools. It's not about process. It's more about people and the empathy and taking down those barriers and reducing friction to actually get all of our teams working together. And typically we talk about just the developers and the operations teams, but actually it's much broader than that. It's bringing in marketing, it's bringing in support, bringing in the C-level, and just doing whatever you can to tear down those barriers. And when it comes to the collaboration piece, more and more teams are looking to group chat. They're moving their conversations out of instant message, out of even email, and putting it into a space where we can all be part of the conversation and have that same context, and creating situational awareness. And it really doesn't matter what the tool is.
No.
There's teams using IRC, which has been around for years.
They mentioned that yesterday.
But then there's others who are using something like HipChat or Slack or FlowDoc or whatever. use whatever you'd like. It's not about the tool.
Right.
We have a lot of people coming by our booth because we have the ChatOps for Dummies book there.
Right.
And they're like, so tell me more about ChatOps. Are you ChatOps? Are you ChatOps as a service or whatever?
Mr. ChatOps to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's a great conversation because we get to sort of help educate them on, ChatOps is really about a concept, and it's not difficult. In fact, you're probably already doing it and you don't realize it. As long as you're moving those conversations into an open space where everybody can learn from what others are doing. Maybe I've got a question for you, and I'm thinking, well, this is just sort of between you and I, but actually your response is valuable to others.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
I think there's that element to it, Jason, but there's also the acceleration element. You're younger than me, but I see people your age. Email is not your primary communication mode anymore.
No.
And it was for me and probably still is, honestly. ChatOps accelerates communication to the speed of today's business.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the killer of it, right? That's the killer app aspect of it, is the speed of, we disseminate. It's not just you and I conversing. It's all of us conversing in real time.
Right.
And that's what, to me, that's the allure or the promise of ChatOps. But then when you hear, stories like what HP is doing, layering in not only that speed of communication and the dissemination of the democratization, bringing all these people in, but also some of the other technology that they spoke about that they're adding into this as it relates to software development, right? Cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the reason, once people sort of move to these more synchronous methods of communication, they start to see that. They start to realize, this is actually a lot more efficient, because rather than me asking you a question over email and then you responding to me over email, and then I say, I write back and I say, thanks, well, we just chatted, but we used email as the channel. And so if you can just move that stuff into a different
warp speed.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden you can get things done a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And everybody's on the same page about what's happening. And so, you start speeding up things, and you just, it just provides all these different byproducts, basically, and you still get to do the same thing that you were doing, which is just conversing and having this collaboration over what you're working on. So
yeah. So you mentioned the ChatOps for Dummies book, and unfortunately most people watching this video aren't going to be able to come down to the booth and pick it up. How can they get it?
So if you go to victorops.com/ChatOps for Dummies, you can download it there.
Great.
I've got a couple other links that I'll put up on Twitter and make it so people can find it there.
And your Twitter handle?
Twitter is @JasonHand.
Okay.
And I'm at all these different events, meeting lots of people and trying to share everything that I'm learning, because I'm sort of, I get to come and speak a lot of cases and teach people what I know, but I also get to come and just be somebody in the audience and learning about all these things.
Well, that's DevOps.
Yeah, it is, exactly. And I try to share. Share is one of our CAMs, in our CAMs model there, and sharing is a big part of it. And
they do an excellent job at it here at the Enterprise Summit, because we're in this fishbowl of a TV booth, but if you look outside and you look at the tables, you see people just continually sitting down and sharing.
Yeah.
And I've listened in. It's some great stuff. Anyway, we need to wrap this up. Jason Hand, VictorOps, thanks for sponsoring and exhibiting here at DOES, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been great.
This is Alan Schimmel of DevOps.com.